So, the whole thing that I wanted to talk to you about was the Last of Us remake that was sort of confirmed on Twitter, like sometime over the weekend, I believe it was.
Yeah, I saw that.
You heard about that?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot of people who are saying, what's the point? And, it's too early to do a remake. And, you know, me being the nerd that I am, I know of a couple of circumstances in which this has happened before within a console generation. And hell, within 7 years, you remember when Last of Us 1 came out?
Yeah, it was like, what, like almost 10 years ago? I feel like it's been
Yeah,
out.
you're actually really right.
Right.
It's about, I think it came out in 2012.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, about 10 years. Um, if it came out in 2011, actually, I'm going to look that up just really quickly, just so we're transparent about this.
So, are you saying people are saying it's too soon for a remake?
Sort of. There's some people in that camp. Okay, you know what? I was wrong. Last of Us came out in June 14. I'm sorry, June 14th, 2013. So, not
Okay.
10, not 10. It's 2021 and it's not June yet. So, it's been like 8 years.
8 years is still a good amount of time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so. I think there's a couple of reasons to make a remake. You know, Last of Us Part 2 improved on a lot of things the original game had going for it. They added a prone stance, which allow you to obviously prone. So, that's something
Yeah,
that
last two touched on a lot of like end game mechanics that the first one was missing.
yeah, or at least they couldn't put it on there probably because of console restrictions. Like, probably wasn't good enough to probably didn't have enough space or enough memory to have all that stuff and have a functioning game at 30 frames per second. You know what I mean? Um,
Right.
but yeah, it came out June 14, 2013, and it is 2021. Last of Us Part 2 came out last year in 2020, and I'm not going to talk about how well received that game is because a lot of people review bomb that because I'm just going to call a cat a cat. People are xenophobic. People are racist. People hate any disenfranchised group that there is. So, because all that exists in Last of Us Part 2, I think unfortunately a large group of a group of the fans really hated on that game a lot and couldn't understand the vision. I don't feel like I was one of those people. I'm not going to say that, I'm like a grand wizard, grand master type guy. I don't have the best taste. I just have my taste. I think the game was alright. I didn't like the ending, but the game was cool. And I don't think Naughty Dog disliked the game. It won tons of awards. So I don't think that they're trying to remake the series because they didn't like their own direction with Last of Us Part 2. But my whole angle on it is, and I'm going to let you talk, sorry. I think that they're remaking the game because, well, one, back in the day, they said that they were going to release several DLCs for the first game to further detail out the story of Last of Us. Um, as you know, you've played it before. There are several characters in The Last of Us Part 1 that have, little to no exposition on them. Like, we don't know shit about these characters besides they interact with Joel. Tess is one of them. Some woman that he knows. We don't know if they're dating. We don't know the extent of their relationship. She's in the beginning of the game. Later on, spoiler alert, she dies. This other guy, what was his name? Hank? I forget the
Uh,
guy's name. You know it?
I'm trying to think. It's been a while since I played it. I think Hank. I don't know.
It
Hank
can't.
seems.
Hank seems right, right?
Yeah.
Like, why does Hank seem so right? Um, the guy who starts his car. But that guy, I think Hank might have been the partner of the guy that I'm talking about. But basically, he's this guy and he helps Joel get his car started so he could travel with Ellie. And there's like little to no story on this guy. We just know he owes Joel a favor, you know? And
Right.
I could chalk it up to they could probably just be better off making a prequel. But I think what they want to do is tell the story of Last of Us Part 1 better than they did the first time, which I don't think it was terrible. And I think they want to incorporate new game mechanics into it. What do you think?
So to me, The Last of Us, like Part 1, you know, it was like the pinnacle of like, I mean, then like storytelling, right? We're on the like the PlayStation 3 and stuff, and but
Yeah.
so like the storytelling to me was great when it included like the main characters. You got Joel and let's see, Tess was like you said in the beginning, and then you got Ellie. So, and then the backstory of the other characters, you didn't really get that. But back then, I was just like so immersed in the story of Joel and Ellie, and I didn't think about it then as I do now. And the whole remake just makes sense. I mean, games get a remake now every so often, even more so because we're at this point in gaming where it's next gen, the games will run better, smoother, and if I'm a company and I know what the consumers like, which everyone loved the Last of Us series 1 and 2, why wouldn't I want to put a remake out there, you know, get more story, better in-game mechanics, the proning and all that had, you know, that was accessible in The Last of Us Part 2. And
Excuse me. Bill was his name.
Bill.
But, yeah. But please continue.
So one of the things I loved about like The Last of Us was like Joel always had to make like tough decisions, right? So he was like made out to be some anti-hero, but like the truth in that world, it's like there's no good guys or bad guys. You have to make tough decisions, and that's why I kind of like loved The Last of Us, the storytelling, the characters, and I'm all for a remake because I don't know, just playing something like I know I've already played it before, but like a fresh take on it is, you know, intriguing to me. So why wouldn't I be excited for something like that?
Right. Yeah. See, and that's kind of my issue because, excuse me, you know, Anoobis, you know, Josh, I'm gonna call him Anoobis anyway, though he probably prefers to be called that. He is sort of like, what's the point? And I'm sitting here like, yo, why don't you want more content from a franchise that you enjoy? Oh, one second. Had to clear my throat. I know that's annoying to hear when you're listening to a pod, but the thing is, Resident Evil 1 came out in 1996. Do you follow me?
Yes.
And Resident Evil Remake for the Nintendo GameCube, not, you know, Resident Evil Remake like Remake 2 and Remake 3. The original remade version of Resident Evil 1 came out on the Nintendo GameCube in 2000, I think it was 2003. So, 96, 2003, you know, that's not like a large time frame. That's only one console gen apart. Then there's even more than Resident Evil. There's Metal Gear Solid, which came out in 1998. It had a remake that was only for the Nintendo GameCube, and it was titled Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes. And Twin Snakes came out in 2004. So, with that being said, 98 to 2004, that's a short amount of time. And I don't know anything about Twin Snakes. I didn't even play through the entire Metal Gear Solid 1. I've only played 4, 5, and 4 and 5 really. And I understand it's a fantastic series and people love it, but I don't think anybody questioned it when they were like, "Hey, we're remaking this game to better fit this new generation of gaming."
No, see, and that's the thing. Metal Gear Solid, and then who is it? Oh, Rockstar. They're freaking huge on like remaking the same game pretty much and adding in some new features. You got GTA 5, which came on like the PS3, Xbox 360, then it hit PS4 and Xbox One, and now they're making another like remake of GTA 5 for the next gen consoles. So it's not like uncommon, right, for these companies to release remakes to fit the newer generation of gaming, whether it's on console or PC, because times are always changing, the hardware gets better, and developers want to take advantage of that and also increase sales. So if consumers have a want for it, companies are going to release it, and I think no one, like you said, no one batted an eye with Metal Gear Solid. Why is this even like an
Uh,
issue with The Last of Us? The Last of Us, if they want to make a remake to better suit this generation of gaming, and then there's tons of people who actually never actually like got into The Last of Us, like the newer generation. Yeah, they played The Last of Us Part Two, but how many people actually played The Last of Us and know like in depth like the full story of Joel and Ellie? And I don't know. I've always been a fan of, if you want to make something like a remake or you want to release it, I'm all for it, because that just gives me, an excuse to play it all over again and it look, 10 times better or run a little bit smoother on my new console.
right, and you brought up an interesting point that somebody on Twitter had brought up, and I can't remember their name right now, but they had mentioned how people were saying that Last of Us remake doesn't make sense, but then he talked to a person, or he met a person who was 25 and never heard of Mass Effect, and Mass Effect remaster is coming out, which is it's looking really good. I haven't seen a lot of it. I've only seen like a couple of screenshots. I haven't seen a lot of gameplay. And I'm not super familiar with the series myself. I know the series, but I never played it. But from what I had seen, it looks like it's more of like not remaster, remake quality, because those games came out 2 generations ago, basically, except for Andromeda, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a big leap, bringing it from the PS3 360 generation to the current PC, PS5, Xbox Series X generation. Like, that's a huge leap. And there's a guy on our page on Facebook, and this dude, I swear, man, he has an answer for everything. I don't try to be that guy, but he thinks that I'm the guy that I think he is. It's just a weird game that we're playing. He was saying that Sony continues to make bad business decisions, and they could just port the game to PS5 like Xbox is doing, and just do like a touch up that way with the smart delivery system or whatever. I'm not even sure if like I'm saying what the smart delivery system is accurately, but I know what he's talking about, because Xbox is going in and touching up some games so they fit in more with like the current generation. They're not doing anything like making them have the features that this current gen has. They're just cleaning some things up. In other words, they're just upscaling some things,
Right, yeah.
adding HDR to some things that didn't have HDR. I understand the concept, but and it's great that Xbox is doing that, and that's a great business decision. But my whole point is, why is it that when Sony breathes, everybody becomes a business expert and everybody's just telling them what is right and what is wrong? I don't agree with every decision Sony makes, like them getting rid of backwards compatibility after the first couple fat PS3s. I've always hated that. I've always criticized them on that. I've always said that their the UI has been a bit better on Xbox. I'm used to PlayStation UI now, so I don't really care that much about the UI. But everybody's a big business expert when it comes to that, and it's so weird to me. It's so bizarre because we had this conversation the other day. Nobody shares this energy for Nintendo. It's only when it's either when Sony does something that people like that might slightly inconvenience some people. When Xbox like does something, well, Xbox I could bring up a couple of things, but you know they're doing better than what they've ever done.
Oh yeah, because once and I don't mean to cut you off, but like Xbox back then, let's say heck, even 8 years ago, right? When Xbox One released and then the PS4, Xbox, it wasn't that great. And then Phil Spencer, we all know, got promoted, took charge, and he took off with the brand, and it's doing a lot better now. But I also wanted to touch on what you mentioned, like the smart delivery opposed to like a remake. So smart delivery, yeah, you're right. It's pretty much just an enhanced version of the game with a few extra features like the HDR, and it makes it run smooth and it looks a lot better, which is cool and all. But why wouldn't you want like an actual remake where the developers go in, they actually just knock everything down and build it back up. And
Exactly.
I watched some of the trailers between like the Mass Effect, like then and then the remake that's coming out, and the work they put in is tremendous. I love the work that developers put into these remakes, and then we get to see it for ourselves. If they would have been like, "Oh, we're gonna port this over to like Xbox and PS5 with enhanced graph," or like, yeah, you know, 4K or 60 frame per second, or it just runs a little bit smoother and it looks kind of the same, I'll be like, eh. Opposed to, oh man, that remake looks incredible. I can't wait to try that out.
Exactly, and you know that's kind of where I'm at. They keep mentioning it from like a upscaling perspective, and it's like I feel like they fail to realize the point. The point is in gameplay, and the guy that I'm mentioning, he said that Last of Us Part Two gameplay was was perfect. You know, why mess with the formula? I'm like, well, one, I don't think the game's controls in Last of Us Part Two is even close to perfect. There's a lot of things that they can improve on, and that's one. Two, if you're going to say that, how in the hell are you even going to make a sequel? You can't just be like, oh well, why even risk it? It just seems messy. It's just really funny to me how everybody is just like, where do these degrees come from? Like everybody has a PhD in what's wrong with the gaming industry. Like I know like I might seem facetious sometimes, or a little crazy when I talk about some things involving what developers or publishers do, but I feel like a lot of things I say is like rooted in truth. And yeah, I'll be the first to admit that I'm biased, but it's because I like the products that I get. And when people talk about the publisher, it's just it strikes a nerve with me because it's like I'm still getting the games that I like, and you guys are still buying the system, even though you shit on Sony, but you still buy the games and you still talk about the games rather frequently. Now, if we want to talk about some weird business practices, if you have a problem with Last of Us Remake, how the fuck are you totally zen with Pokemon not being DLC? Like Sword and Shield, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I remember when I seen the models of Pokemon and Pokemon Sword and Shield, I said to myself, why couldn't this be in a 3DS game? Because I got in a 3DS months prior to Sword and Shield being announced, I believe, and I got Pokemon X and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. I do want those games just for the simple fact of they got some cool Pokemon, like 2 or 3 cool Pokemon I want from them. But they're basically running off the same type of engine. Like they're the same looking Pokemon. The touch-ups on the Nintendo Switch are decent for sure, but I don't see why none of this could be like a DLC for Ultra Sun or Ultra Moon. It's neat that they wanted to put something on the Switch, But you know, they had Pokemon Eevee and Pokemon Pikachu or whatever on. Was
Right.
that on the Wii U or was that on the Switch?
Oh no, Pokemon Eevee.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was on the Switch.
Yeah, so like you
Like,
know, there's been a console Pokemon game, and I get that the Switch you want to take a console power Pokemon game portable, but you
oh
know you know when you add the DLC factor into Pokemon Sword and Shield, and it's like, yo, they literally had the models for these Pokemon. You know, they had the models for the Pokemon that are in the previous games, and they just literally sat there on their hands for like, well, how long did it take you guys to get the DLC? Like about 10 months, 10 months just to get you some shit that you've had for years. Get out of my
yeah.
face! And on
I'm,
top of that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, the models are the same, and like with the Nintendo Switch and its hardware and all that, and you know what Pokemon decided to do. My whole thing is when I played Pokemon like Shield, it literally just felt like something like you mentioned that I could have played on the 3DS, but it was just upscaled for the console.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, man. It was upscaled for the Switch, and they cut half the Pokemon, and then they gave you DLC, and you can trade your Pokemon now. That's nice, you know. That's really nice. But some of the people want consistency going to like the latest model. Does that make sense? Like some people, when they get games, they want to get a game because it has the latest of everything of the past games. You know, for instance, I'll use this model. There's Street Fighter, then there's Super Street. I'm sorry, there's Street Fighter 4, then there's Super Street Fighter 4, then there's Ultra Street Fighter 4. These are three different titles, but one of these games is the ultimate game because it has everything the other games have. You know, like with Pokemon Sword and Shield, you get not everything that the previous games have. Is being marketed as the best game because you know it's on the console, and the quality just isn't there. Like the touch ups that my guy was talking about with Smart Delivery is like what the Switch got, but you had to pay for that shit, and the price won't go down ever.
No,
You know what I mean? The price won't go down ever. Like if you hate Last of Us Part Remake, that shit will be free in a year if you really hate it. If you really hate it, it'll be free, or it'll at least be $40 to $30. It won't be $70. Pokemon, you're stuck with that shit. You have to hold it. Oh,
yeah,
Smash Brothers Ultimate. Yo, why is that shit still $60? By the way, like
I'm telling you, Nintendo does not lower their prices. I'm telling you.
they don't. But look, think about it this way, Corey. You know, I bought my girlfriend a Switch last year.
Yeah.
Smash Brothers Ultimate. I'm about to look it up right now.
That game's still expensive, man.
Smash Brothers Ultimate release date. Bro, that shit came out December 7, 2018. I got my girlfriend a Switch in it was while we were laid off, so it was like it was either April or May of 2020. That shit was a full $60, and the DLC is still full price. So Smash Ultimate, if you want the full experience, you have to pay. I think the first pass is like it must be like $7. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and just say it's $7 fucking dollars. Do you know what it is off the top of your head?
I mean, I know it's up there. Like,
Oh man, it is Fighter Pass Nintendo Switch Digital. Let's see, a Target Fighter Pass. No, a GameStop Fighter Pass 1 is $25. So if you want the full experience of Smash, you gotta pay $60. Then you gotta pay $25 in store at least for, well, hell, it's probably everywhere. $25 for the first pass, and aren't they on Pass 2 right now?
Yeah, past two, but I think that's it for the game. I don't think they have anything else planned. I haven't seen anything.
Well, yeah, for sure. But regardless, that shit is, oh my goodness. Is that $85 just for the full game and the first pass? So
Yeah,
the second pass is going to put it at like $100?
yeah, for a game that came out a few years ago.
Yeah, and you know, like I said, I know I'm biased, but when I look at Sony and I see them making a remake of a game that people like, I don't see a ton of negativity behind that. I see something that might be interesting to try. I want to see what they do with the AI. I want to see how many new storylines they come up with because, like I said, they wanted to do DLC. And I want to see how they change the gameplay because they cut out a lot of gameplay from the first demo they showed us. And, you know, they might add some stuff that might have been in Last of Us Part 2 gameplay wise. I want to
Right.
see that. But, you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, this has never happened because we have Resident Evil Remake on GameCube along with Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. I'm not going to sit here like it's the worst business model ever because I just gave you a game that's been out for 2 years. And wait, I'm sorry, 2018 in December? Well, yeah, 2 years. I was about to fucking end their career and say it's been out for three. But 2 years, 2 years and some change, right? It's been out for 2 years and some change. That shit is still $60. The DLC is still 25, and we're sitting here talking about how bad the business model is for a game that's going to be remade from the ground up. It's insane.
And you would think after like a game's been out for a few years, right? Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, they're like, man, how can we get an influx of new players? I don't know. Let's put the games on sale, right? At a discounted price.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo, oh no. They'll just keep that game sitting there at $60, $70, base price. And then you still have to pay full price for like DLCs. They've always had that like model and I just don't understand it. And people still like buy into it.
Yeah, they buy into it and they call every other company shitty for little minor inconveniences. Like, you know, I wouldn't call the PS3 thing being shut down a minor inconvenience. People are having some issues with games right now, I hear, but I'll say that for a bigger pod. Um, but that's a big issue. But minor inconveniences like Sony censoring an ass crack on a game for like half a second and people being in an uproar about it. I don't care about that. Stop bringing that up to me when we're talking about huge business foul ups. You know, talk to me. You can talk to me if you want about backwards compatibility for sure, but I want to come back at you with Nintendo sold a Mario game for a year and now people are trying to scalp this shit like I did. I bought the shit, but my girlfriend loves the game, so I'm not getting rid of it. So hopefully I can get one on Amazon and sell it later, 2 years down the line. Um,
Right?
and Xbox is doing well right now. I've been shitting on them ever since Xbox first came out, but they're doing well. Congratulations for them. Now just get some exclusives because Hellblade had a trailer about a year or two ago. I have not seen anything since, and that was one of the games that they were pushing.
I would say about Xbox, I mean, the criticism was well deserved, over the years. I'm just glad they finally, found a base model, that works best for them. And I'm taking advantage of it because, I got an Xbox recently. But I'm still a fan of, like, Sony as well and what they've got planned. It's
Mm.
like, I'm still one of those suckers for, like, Nintendo because I don't know, man. I know it's wrong. I know they got, like, full price games that came out like 5 years ago, and I'm just like, man, let me inject this into my veins because I need more of it, right? Like, it's
Mm.
just, it's frustrating as a gamer because you want like those big corporations to care about the consumers, and I feel like Sony and Microsoft do a great job of doing that, and then Nintendo's just that stepchild that no one really likes, but then they still love them.
Nintendo is too much of an island. Like I know I make it sound like I just don't give a flying fuck about Nintendo, but I do like some of their products. Like I said I like the idea of 3D All Stars. I don't know why they had it on for a year. I like Super Mario Sunshine. That's one of my favorites from Nintendo.
Yeah.
I like 64, but I like 64 on the DS slightly more because of the content. Um, Yoshi's Story was one of my favorites when I was a kid. Banjo Kazooie. I know that's
Yep.
on Xbox, but I grew up with a lot of these games, and I like them. I like Nintendo when it was like 64, Nintendo 64, and the GameCube. But after Wii, they lost me, and they just never got me back. You know,
Right.
and they almost did a couple times, but every time it's like almost I just can't. But I think that really does it for quarters for now. Probably going on like 5 minutes too long, but that's whatever.
Yeah, that was